Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours. My name is Jeff Blankenburg. I'm our Chief Technical Evangelist here at Alexa, and I'm so glad you're all here to join us. If you haven't been to Office Hours before, or you're like, what is this? This is a place where we spend 1 hour every week answering all of your questions about Alexa, Alexa development, voice design, ambient computing, whatever it is. We're here to try to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So with that, I want to say welcome. I know that we already have Annie Muncie in the audience, and I know why she's here, specifically because I have the good fortune of having Sri Bhaskar join me, and she is here from the Alexa Shopping Actions team. And so what's really exciting about this is a new feature that we're offering to developers as a way to make some money in your skill. So Sri, thank you so much for being here.
Yep, glad to be here, Jeff.
Awesome. So one of the things that I'd like to have you share, I mean, I can go on and on about some of these things, but I'd love to hear from your perspective. What is Alexa Shopping Actions for those that are tuned in here?
Yeah, so Alexa Shopping Actions is a set of tools that allows you to give shopping experiences through your skill uh, for any customers and anything, either your own merchandise or things that you recommend based on how customers use your skill. So it allows you to do all the shopping that customers are familiar with through Alexa and use the same through your skills.
Cool. And so when we talk about either their merchandise or other products, this has some parallels to like Amazon Associates that we see that people can use when they shop on Amazon.com. They can recommend products to other people through social media or other things, and then they get a little bit of a kickback, right, for selling those products?
Yeah, so we are enabling associates on Alexa. So we do have it in developer preview at this point,
Okay.
and some point later in the year we would want to go generally available for that as well.
Got it.
And yeah, so essentially it's a new channel for recommendation, especially with voice. It is more natural to talk through a lot of these. So yeah,
For sure.
that will give them some kickback as well.
And so we're not going to get into the deep technical implementation of this today, but what we are talking about specifically are products that are available on Amazon.com. So when we say they can sell their products or other people's products, we're talking about things that are listed on Amazon.com for sale, correct?
Yes, any of the Amazon marketplaces, not just .com. So Amazon.in.uk,
Sure.
anything.
No, that's perfect. And is there any restrictions? For example, if I build an Alexa skill for ENUS, so the English US English speakers, can I sell a product from Amazon.in, or do I have to have an Indian skill in English or Hindi to be able to sell products on Amazon.in?
So basically, it depends on the use case, right? Essentially, okay. So shopping actions works based off of ASINs. So let's take a step back and
Okay,
make that clear, right? So ASINs are Amazon specific numbers, right? Identification numbers, where these are uh, Amazon identifiers. So some of these ASINs are common across all of these marketplaces. Some of them are not. So what we do is we ask customers to keep a list of the ASINs that they're recommending, and if it is available in a marketplace, you can enable that for customers. As long as customers from different locales are using it, their product will be through their locale. So if it's an IN customer who's interacting with you, then the ASIN, if it's available in IN, will get uh, displayed to them. So yeah.
got it. And just so people understand, and Don just asked a question that I think kind of leads to this, which is how is this? I'll give a little background on this also, but how is this just different from in-skill purchases? So just for a quick background for everybody, an in-skill purchase, there's three different kinds of products that you can sell as what we call an ISP or an in-skill purchase. And that is a one-time purchase. The example I like to use is if you're playing an adventure game and you need an axe to beat a certain enemy. You could, with a one-time purchase, you could buy that digital axe for that skill, and you would own that axe for the rest of the game, and you could use it for other things, and it never goes away. The second is a subscription. So imagine any subscription you've ever had before, same idea, monthly or yearly subscriptions. And then finally, you have consumables, and these are things like I bought 100 coins for $1. I've used them all up through whatever was going on inside the skill. and now I need to buy more, and so I can buy more of those coins. So those are in-skill purchases. But I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit about how this is different than ISP, what the shopping actions is.
Yeah. So in-skill purchases typically allows you to uh, update or upsell things within the skill, right? Like content within the skill for things to be used within the skill, either new content or new features, functionalities, like an axe, for example, is a tool within the skill. What Alexa shopping kit enables you to do, or shopping actions enables you to do, is you can buy products of Amazon, which is your retail products and things like that. So we do have some restrictions on the types of asins available on the developer console. Like you can go look at developer documentation for that. But with that in mind, you'll be able to, for example, if you have a T-shirt with your own logo on it, and you sell that through Amazon, you will be able to sell that, right? Or
Got
if you have tools, like you have a knowledge based skill, and if you are recommending they use a particular tool or a particular product, you can ask them, hey, do you just want to go buy it, as you're looking to see how you want to do that.
Got it. That makes
So
sense. And this leads to an example I have. I'd love your thoughts on this idea. I haven't even started building it yet, but I'm big into board games. And so what I was thinking about is building a skill that kind of gave a quick explanation of a game. If you have a device with a screen on it, maybe I even offer like a video that shows you quick gameplay. But then I would also be able to say, are you interested in this game? You could buy it. And let them buy that directly from Amazon.com through my skill. Is that a good example of an application of this?
yeah,
Okay.
and
I mean, obviously, I don't
like
sell or
a lot
those
of
games.
times, if you think about it, expansion packs that go along with the game would be the right next step. Or hey, like, can I play it with 5 people or 6 people? It's
Right.
like, okay, this game is only for 4 people, and you can get this expansion if you want to include more people.
Got it.
So all of these various use cases that are tangible in real life.
That's perfect. All right. I do have a couple more questions here that from folks in the audience. Um, so Don on YouTube asks, so products would not be able to originate within the skill like a digital product, and I think we've answered that. In-skill products, in-skill purchases, ISPs, um, originate inside the skill and they're used only for the purpose of that skill. This is definitely different than that. And then his next question, and I know Don has had a bunch of challenges with trying to build a skill that uses Amazon Pay to sell physical goods and services outside of his skill. And he was asking how this is different from that. My suspicion, and I'd love your opinion on this, is that this is different in that you can only sell things that are available on an Amazon web property, right? Some Amazon store, where with Amazon Pay, you could sell anything from anywhere.
Yes. So a couple of things, right? One is, yes, you can only sell things within the Amazon store, but through this experience, for example, skill developers do not have to worry about the pricing or the offers. All of that is taken care of by shopping once you hand, like once we have that shake hand through Skills Connection. It does work through Skills Connection. So once you get into shopping actions, we take care of all of that. You don't have to worry about fulfillment. As we order through Amazon, fulfillment is also taken care of, and all of those things around it is also taken care of, not just the ordering portion of it.
Got it. And from a user perspective, what does this look like to a customer? Because if I'm an Amazon shopper already, I know today is the first day of Prime Day. So if I go into my Amazon website and I search for a product and I buy it and I add it to my cart and like I have order history and all of the other stuff, does it appear very similar to a user in that same way? I bought a product through this skill, like a board game, and I ordered it and it's shipped to my home. Do I see it all in the same places?
Yes. So the integration is through all of the Amazon's ecosystem. Your order pages, your delivery pages, tracking pages, it will get integrated to all of these.
Cool. And so the users obviously have all the same capabilities for things like returns and customer service and all the other stuff that they've come to expect.
Yep.
That's great.
And across the devices, right? Like even if they order through Alexa, the details are available through mobile, through your website, all of it.
Perfect. That's a really nice integration. That's awesome. Okay, I have a couple of questions that are unrelated, but I will. I'll come back to you here in just a second. Ecologic follower on Twitch said, "Do we need an AWS subscription for developing Alexa skills?" To answer this question directly, no. We actually offer something called Alexa Hosted, which allows you to spin up a bunch of AWS services for free when you're building an Alexa skill. So if you go to, developer.amazon.com, and you log into the developer console for Alexa there, you will find that, in fact, you can create an Alexa hosted skill without ever having an AWS account at all, which is quite nice. That being said, there is more flexibility, more opportunity to be more diverse in your approach to building an Alexa skill, different database schemas, and all sorts of other access. If you do have an AWS account, and I will tell you that the free tier access that is available on AWS would also almost always put you in a situation where you're not going to spend any money on AWS to build an Alexa skill. So I generally like to say that building an Alexa skill shouldn't cost you any money. And unless you're wildly successful with an AWS-based skill or any other cloud service, really, you can host it wherever you'd like. The only wild success will result in you having much expense at all. So you should feel very confident when you're building for Alexa that you shouldn't have almost any costs whatsoever in building. So just something to keep in mind. I'd also like to know more from Brian Tarbox. He said he's at there's an AWS summit in New York City today, and he said the keynote was interrupted 4 different times by protesters. That's pretty wild. But big cities, you'll have your protests. So interesting. Brian Tarbox also want to know if you can sell your products or any product. What cut do you get of the purchase? This is something we haven't talked about because right now, I think, Sri, we're only talking about being able to sell products. This has nothing to do with commission or sales revenue or anything like that, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
So as people get into associates, they will get some commission, right? As they onboard into associates again. That is in developer preview. As we get into that, they will get commissions, and it's the standard rates as the affiliate program.
Okay.
It is nothing new.
But today, if I sell someone else's product on Amazon, I am really only serving my customer by offering them a product they may want, but I don't actually reap any reward or benefit as a result.
Yes, that is
okay. And I think that's a fair answer, but it's good to set those expectations. All right, so that answers Brian's questions. Swapnano on LinkedIn says, I have a good speaking skill of voice dubbing, both Bengali and Hindi languages. Well, that's absolutely awesome. If anybody's looking for a voiceover person, Swapnano might be your person. But that's thank you for sharing that. Brian Tarbox also says, do we have any idea what caused the Alexa outage the other day? I'm in my area. The outage was over 4 hours. I don't. The only thing that I've heard, and maybe Sri has some insight into this as well, is that there was a slight bug introduced into Generation 4 Echo Dots, and there was a time for a few hours where those devices were not functioning because of some update that they had received, and that has been since fixed, from what I understand. But that's the only outage I've really heard of. So Brian, if you can clarify, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I'd be interested to know if that's what you're referring to. Don also mentioned, for those of you that are looking to build skills cheap to free, there's a service called VoiceFlow that also will allow you to build your skills there. And I believe that is also low to no cost, as I recall. K-Man Studios says, could you create an Alexa Rubik's Cube?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
Alexa, stop. To answer your question, yes, I believe you could. I don't know that is an ideal voice interface. If you think about interacting with a Rubik's Cube and being able to turn not only the cube, but also turn the individual parts of the Rubik's Cube, I mean, you could do it, turn the top row, turn the left column. You'd have to build some very specific terminology, I think, to make that happen. But yes, you very much could create an Alexa Rubik's Cube. I think that's reasonable. All right. Deepanchu Jain on Twitch says, do we need an Amazon associate account to get the benefits of every item we sell through Alexa? Well, Deepanchu, as we mentioned earlier, and you may have asked this before, I clarified with Sri, is that today there is no association between Alexa shopping actions and Amazon associates. That is something that they're working on. It's in a developer preview. But for today, it just gives you the capability to sell products with a look towards the future potentially of being able to use Amazon Associates type commissions on those sales. Okay, Brian Campbell says, I'm wondering how this looks to a user from paying from that item point of view. Oh, good. I asked that question earlier. I would imagine that the skill implements account linking, then the whole process is seamless. The user's card would just be billed. Is that correct? Brian, I don't even think that any account linking is required. Because this is using first-party Alexa shopping actions, part of our shopping kit, I don't believe that there's any additional work that needs to be done other than to make the specific skill connections call with the appropriate ASIN. Is that what we pass in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a skill connections call. You've probably seen this if you've done in-skill purchasing before, where you basically are passing off to the Alexa service an indication of what product you want to sell. That's how ISP works. You pass a specific product ID, and then it lets the user know, like, hey, you're about to do, this is the product you're looking at. This is how much it costs. Would you like to buy it? And then the user says yes or no. If they say yes, then the transaction goes through. A response gets sent back to your skill to let you know that the successful purchase was made. You can congratulate them on their purchase or something like that. Or they can say no and say, no, I don't want to buy that. And you'll also get that package back to say, no, they decided to decline this offer. And you can say, oh, okay, no big deal. We'll catch you next time. If you ever want to buy a product in the future, you can just say buy or whatever. Is that an accurate representation of how this works, Suri?
Yeah. So one slight nuance there is, so when the skill developer is showing the product, they'll be able to ask, hey, do you want to learn more about it? Things like that. And on a confirmation, they hand it off to Skills Connection. However, what the user actually does inside Skills Connection is not sent back. Like the yes or no response is not sent back. We do send a message saying whether the action was successful or not, but not what action they took.
So
they will be able to look at metrics, at aggregated metrics,
okay,
not at the customer level, but at a group level on, hey, how many did I recommend, and what were the conversion rate where people actually bought it or people actually added it to cart.
Got it. But for the individual user, you don't actually get to know whether or not they purchased it.
No.
You just know whether there was an error or something like that.
Yes. Whether we successfully processed it or not.
Got it. Okay. That's good to know. I think that there's probably going to be some requests in the future to help understand that, because as a skill, you're going to want to respond differently depending on whether they succeeded or chose not to buy the product or whatever. But I certainly understand from a customer privacy perspective why we may or may not want to allow them to have that information. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. All right. He Spec Softwares on Twitch says, I have a published skill called Milestone Time. I set the invocation name as milestone, 2 words, but this often confuses Alexa as if the single word milestone was spoken. I think maybe milestone time might be a better phrase, but would it get the same issue in reverse? Milestone time. This certainly comes with some experimentation. And the challenge here is that we don't offer a great tool for testing your invocation name to see how it's going to respond. We're really good on being able to give you tools to test your interaction model and your intents and things like that. But Spec, I don't have a great answer for you on here, except that I think trying to break a compound word like milestone generally will not work out well for you, because you're breaking a word that is one word into 2 words just to appease the 2-word requirement for invocation names. So milestone time, I think, would probably be fine, because then you have achieved the 2-word requirement, and milestone is 1 word. I don't think that you would end up with invocation name conflicts at that point. But again, it does require some kind of intricate testing. I would spend some time, change your invocation name, talk to some devices, say it different ways, add pause in between mile and stone, see how those things play out for you. But in general, I think I would think you would have more success with milestone time than you would with milestone, because milestone is generally 1 word. So that's my perspective there. I don't know that I have the best possible answer for you, but that's kind of how I would lean into that. Brian Tarwick says the other day, all Alexa devices, dots, show, lights, switches, routines were all down. It varied by region, but most regions were affected. A Witter says he didn't notice anything in the UK. I also don't recall noticing anything, and I'm here on the East Coast of the United States. So, but that I'm not denying that there wasn't some sort of outage for you. I just don't. I don't remember seeing any notifications. Usually, we have emails that go out, or there's tickets that happen internally to let us know that those things are happening. But I don't remember seeing anything specific about it. My apologies. I'll look in and see if I can't find anything for you. I'm actually going to take a quick pause here. I want to share something with all of you because this is one of the last times I get to do this. For those of you that aren't aware, we have an event coming up called Alexa Live. I actually have a very fancy water bottle from last year's event. Let me see if I cover my face, if it gets a little clearer. There we go. Alexa Live is coming up next Wednesday. I can't believe how soon that is. And there are going to be a whole bunch of product announcements and releases and things that I think are really going to be valuable for many of you. So there's a keynote. There will be a bunch of breakout sessions. Lots of exciting stuff to talk about. And so if you guys aren't already registered, you can jump to this URL that I have here on the screen, alexa.design/live. And you can jump right in, get registered, and go. But I can't recommend enough.
Amazon Music Unlimited lets you play over 90 million
Alexa,
songs on this.
Stop. You're going to get muted now. So make sure if you're not already registered for live, make sure you do that. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is I had a couple of things. I have them here on my phone. I want to make sure that I get this right. We had a couple of questions that came in last week, and I don't know if those folks are here, but I wanted to make sure that I at least address their questions so that if they tune in and watch this later, they can be like, oh, cool, he came up with an answer. So, and it's not just me. There's a whole team of people that are helping me behind the scenes to make sure that we follow up on your questions and get you the answers if we weren't able to answer them on air. So the first one was, it came from Winghaven RC last week, and he said he's using Conversations, and he has an API success that he gets, but it's not asking for the slot value again. Basically, it's caching a slot value that he had received previously in Alexa Conversations. And the response that I got from the product team was that there is a context reset policy. This is through ACDL. You can use this to reset the context policy. And before that, we used to have a directive that you could send in, but that has been deprecated. So what you're looking for is a context reset policy in ACDL, which is the Alexa Conversations descriptive language. So I would look into that if you're looking to reset those values. The other one was related to the directive service client in Conversations API handling. And they know that you can either send a directive or a response, but not both. And I wasn't sure how you can handle this. And the response that I got, in fact, was that the directive service client is not currently supported in Alexa Conversations. So while it's not a great answer, at least you know the answer, which is helpful in continuing to figure out your architecture and build your skill. So hopefully that helps for those couple of answers. Let's get back into the questions that we have here. Okay. Kevin in Florida on Twitch says, my skill needs to maintain continuity across the Alexa timeout. I'm using Alexa development and I'm using Alexa dev and saving state with persistent attributes. I'd like a reference that could perhaps help me with this issue. Its skill seems to fail on the restart and acts lost. Okay. When using persistent attributes, what you are doing is saving data into a DynamoDB database. I'm assuming that the way that you're describing this, you're probably using an Alexa hosted skill. And so you're just using the persistent attributes method that allows you to save those attributes into the skill. I don't know how you're saving your data or what, if you're saving a JSON blob or how you're doing that, but my guess is that you need to then retrieve those persistent attributes when the skill is loaded to grab those and then verify that you have the information that you need. I have lots of examples of this that I've written on skills in my own personal GitHub. And I believe that we also see persistent attributes done very well in the cake time tutorial, which I have that here somewhere, I think. I thought that I did, but maybe I don't. I'll add this really quick. Okay, turn that on the screen. So if you haven't seen cake time before, this is generally what I recommend for people that are getting started thinking about building Alexa skills, start with this. Go to alexa.design/caketime, and it walks you through all the steps and introduces you to a lot of the technologies like persistent attributes, also APL, Alexa Presentation Language, which is the markup language that you use to create visuals on devices like this. But I would recommend taking a look at CakeTime because they do implement persistent attributes, and you should be able to take a look and see how they are both persisting the data and retrieving that data on the next interaction. So hopefully that will help. Hopefully that gets you where you need to be. But let me know if that is not enough, Kevin in Florida, and we can see what else we can do. Dipanshu Jain says, Jeff, did you notice the new section Skill Quality Coach in the Analytics tab? Strangely, it was only visible for 1 or 2 days, and it was giving some server errors while I was clicking on it. Yes, I did notice that. Yes, I did tell the product team that it was there. And no, it is not there anymore. I don't have any specific guidance or feedback for you on this, other than to say that maybe you should tune into Alexa Live next Wednesday. But I hope that you guys will tune in, and I hope that you'll be delighted by some of the things that we're going to share there. All right. HeSpec Software says, thanks. Can we change an invocation name after a skill is published? Unfortunately, no. And I have a slightly longer story on why that is that I'd like to share. So for any of you that have a mobile phone, you have a bunch of apps that are on your phone that you use regularly. And depending on how you organize your phone, they may or may not always be in the same place. But they have the same icon. They have the same name on them. And if you were to, the example I always use is like, imagine having like the Twitter app on your phone. If I changed the icon to something else, some new logo that Twitter came up with, and they decided they were going to rename their skill to like bread and butter, or I don't know what they would call it, like some other name for their app. And then I moved it on your phone, you would literally never find the Twitter app again. You wouldn't have any idea where it is or how do I find it again? It's gone. It would be very, very challenging for you to try to get back to that experience. The same goes with Alexa skills, except that we don't have icons, we don't have names, we don't have a screen to tap on. We only have our voices. And so once a skill has been published, once it has users, to change an invocation name is to destroy the skill and start over, more or less. And so if you can kind of grasp that, like the only way for a user to get to your skill today is to know the name of your skill. So if you change that name, if you change that invocation name, you've more or less eliminated the ability for anyone that uses your skill today to get to it. They wouldn't know how to get there anymore. So as a result, if you adamantly have to change your invocation name, my recommendation, honestly, would be to build a new skill with the new invocation name, change all your data, move everything over, whatever it is you want to do. But you're basically building a new skill because any users you had previously aren't going to know that it changed. And in fact, you could change the old skill to say, hey, by the way, this has been deprecated. Please, if you'd like to continue using this experience, say, Alexa, do the thing. And that will take you to the new skill. But you're going to have some way to redirect them anyway. So there is no changing the invocation name. But if you want to change that experience and kind of train people away from or to a new phrase, you can do that by creating a new skill. That would be my recommendation there. Okay. Don said he just got a UPS notification of an impending delivery today, thinking it might be the Alexa Live 2022 goodies. I haven't even gotten that notification yet, so that's exciting. I know that there was some swag sent out to folks, kind of like this water bottle, or last year we got this cool wooden coaster in the mail. There was a pair of socks, all sorts of fun stuff. So hopefully when people get them, post them on Twitter, tag me. I'd love to see what you get. Okay, K-Man Studio says, what would you need to create an Alexa Rubik's Cube? That is a bigger question. I don't know that I can lay out the entire architecture for you today, but I would imagine that there are probably some really good tutorials on the web about building a software-based Rubik's Cube. As far as the visuals go, I don't think that there are a lot of great libraries for doing 3D rendering, but I think you could probably do a 2D rendering of one side of a Rubik's Cube, or even if you wanted to do it rotated at a slight angle, though that would probably be harder. You could allow the user to rotate the cube, in which case you would just re-render the sides of the cube. And then you'd have to have some kind of voice interface to allow the user turn a specific column, right column, left column, top row, bottom row, in order to get the cube to rotate and change the shape and move the colors. It seems like it's a relatively complex concept, but at the end of the day, it really just it comes down to what there's nine spots on each side, and two of them there's one on each side that doesn't even move. So you've got some arrays of data that you need to manipulate and manage, but it doesn't seem like it's impossible. But I don't know that I could like spell out for you exactly how to do that. I mean, that takes some programming background to really build an interactive Rubik's Cube for sure. Okay, moving on, let's see. Okay, so Brian Campbell says, thanks, I'm afraid I still don't understand how shopping actions works. If my skill is not using account linking and the user says, for example, I want to buy golf balls, then what request goes to my Lambda function? My code would not know who the user is, so I'm at a loss for how the order gets placed or how the user pays for the purchase. Sri, do you want to take this or should I?
Go for it and I'll add anything.
Okay, so Brian, my perspective on this is the same with ISPs. You don't have to do any account linking at all to set up in-skill purchasing in your skill. We, as Amazon, know who the user is. We, as Amazon, know their credit card information. We, as Amazon, know their shipping information and all of that other data. All of that is tied to the user ID that we have that you get to see as part of the skill manifest that you receive in your skills. So that unique user ID, while it doesn't contain any data about the things I just shared with you to the developer, we can map that back to all of the things for that customer in our systems. So when you say a user wants to buy this product, like golf balls, you can recommend to them like, hey, we have these cool 12-pack of Titleist Pro V1s. It's $54.99. Would you like to buy them? When the user says yes, we know who the user is. We already know what credit card they have as their default credit device. And we know their shipping information, their default shipping address. So we can very easily take that information, create that order for them on their Amazon marketplace, and have that processed automatically. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is recommend the product and say, hey, here are the golf balls I think I recommend. There is an ASIN, and you guys can, if you guys haven't gotten familiar with ASINs, let me show you what this looks like. This is, again, our unique identifier for every product. I'll look up those Titleist Pro V1s just to show you a good example of this. Okay, so I know I'm not sharing my screen yet. I'm about to do it. Sharing my screen, whole screen, like so. Okay, so you can see that I have Titleist Pro V1 golf balls, 1 dozen. There's a couple of things that you can dig into to find the thing that you're looking for. The first is you can find the ASIN, I think, in the URL, but also down here as we get down into the product details, there is, yeah, this ASIN right here, which is also in the URL. You can see it right here. I wanted to make sure that I was correct about that, but that is the ASIN. So while I'm guessing there's more to the manifest than that, this is the ID that you would need to be able to recommend this product to your user. So it really would be as simple as sending a skill connections request that says, hey, the user is interested in buying this product. So with that, Sri, any thoughts on what I've just said there? I want to make sure I'm not saying anything that's incorrect.
Yeah, like what you said is exactly right, right? So based on the user, we as Amazon know what their accounts are, and that's why, for example, we don't say whether they added it to their cart, like whether they performed the action or not. It is for the compliance and privacy from a customer standpoint, so that they are comfortable with all of these activities. So that, as a developer, you wouldn't have details of that. You wouldn't have to do account linking. Amazon will just pick all of that up in the backend.
Right, and it's just one of those things that we don't really talk about, but like the user's Amazon account is kind of already linked. We kind of, like, if you're interacting with Amazon to make this stuff happen, we already know all the stuff that we need to know.
Because you always set up an Amazon account when you're setting up an Echo device or when you're setting up any kind of Alexa endpoint. So yeah. And
that raises another question though. What if a user wants to buy something, and this may be just part of the workflow, and I'll have to put some thoughts together on how this all works. If I want to order something through a skill, does it verify the shipping address with me?
No, it will use the default shipping address.
It just uses the default. Is there a way for the user to indicate that they want to use a different address?
Not today.
Okay, so it just uses default payment method, default address automatically.
Yep.
Is the user told that as they're making the purchase?
They're told about all the details that they're using, but not necessarily about any payment information or any billing address.
Okay.
Again, so when you're using an Alexa device, if it's in a communal household kind of a device, you don't want Alexa to tell your credit card out loud or the address out loud.
Of course,
So
I was more interested in just saying like, I'm planning on sending this to an address in this zip code or in this city or something like that, just to make sure that I have the right one. But
we don't.
Okay, no, that's good to know. That's good to know. I was just curious. Okay, Brian said he posted a screen grab from his down detector about the outage he had in Slack. So I will check that out a little later. Thank you, Brian. HeSpec Software says, to use a new invocation name, then it sounds like I need to retire the existing skill and publish a new skill with the same name. Yes, that is absolutely correct. If your skill has been through certification and been available to the public, then yes, you would have to build a new skill if you wanted the same skill to have a different invocation name. That is correct. Kunal on LinkedIn says, Cake Time is great for anyone new to Alexa skills development. I agree. I think it's a really great place to get started. K-Man Studios, why doesn't my skill Instrument Trivia 2 work? I don't know the answer to that question. Let me see if I can look it up here quick. Instrument, I forgot what it was called. Instrument Trivia 2. First, I don't see a skill named that, but I don't know what locale you're in. I'm looking in the US store. So K-Man, that's my first question for you is Instrument Trivia doesn't seem to come up as a skill. I do see Instrument Trivia. And there's a couple of instrument quizzes and things like that, but I don't know which one is yours specifically. I'll look at this first one, Instrument Trivia here. That's published by someone that calls themselves Today Millionaires, but I don't know about your skill. So I don't know why it's not working. But if you have more details or whatever, this is also a good opportunity for me to talk about our Slack. So for any of you that are not already there, why can't I find all the things I'm looking for today? There it is. You can go to alexa.design/Slack. This is a Slack community that we created about a year and a half ago. There's just over 2,500 people in there now. And it is a place for Alexa developers like all of you that are tuned in here to be able to come in, ask your questions. This is 24/7 all the time. And you'll find that most of the time, other developers, just like you, have already experienced or gone through that problem or solved that issue. And they'll share their insights or a link to a page or a blog post that they found that really helped them get through that. So if you haven't already, I can't recommend enough. Jump into our Slack, and I think you'll find a lot of the answers that you're looking for just in the community that we have. And it's an incredibly inclusive, friendly, generous group of people. Some of the folks are here every week on office hours as well, and it's just so nice to see how helpful people can be. Even if you're asking beginner questions, they jump in and they say, hey, here's some things you should think about. So I'm really happy that this community exists, and I'm glad to be a part of it. All right, so that's Slack. I'll leave that up there for just a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Winghaven says he also got a notification from a company called Inven, I-N-V-E-N. It probably is what you're expecting it to be as far as a box of swag. Dana Voice says, I'm bummed I'm not getting the swag. I haven't gotten the email yet. The only reason it came up with is the email I can come up with is that the email I used isn't the one from my website. I don't think so, Dana Voice. I don't know what the limitations or date cutoffs or anything was for the swag. But reach out to me. I'll see what I can do. I don't have any answers for you though. I'll talk to the team. Oxygen Box, you just reminded me, I forgot this skill existed. There is a skill, though I don't recall the name of it, that helps you solve a Rubik's Cube. So you have a real physical Rubik's Cube in front of you, and you describe the face of it, and then it tells you how to solve it, which is pretty cool. Oxygen Box also says, Oh yeah, I actually know the answer to this one. This is good. So Oxygen Box says, is there any insight into this CLI message and how to address it? The hash of the current skill package folder does not change compared to the last deploy hash results. CLI will skip the deploy of the skill package. Yeah, so when you do ask deploy in the ask CLI, it does two things depending on the structure of your skill. One, it deploys your front end. So this is your interaction model, pushes everything up to the developer console. And then secondarily, we'll also take your backend, your AWS Lambda, all of the other stuff there, and it will push that up to AWS. However, if you don't make any changes to one or the other, you will get a message similar to this saying, hey, I haven't seen any changes, so I'm not going to bother pushing anything. That's generally where I see this message appear. And what I have found is that if you go into the skill manifest, the skill.json, there is it's a GUID, right? It's a long string of characters. You can delete that GUID, and then when you deploy, it'll force a push, even if you haven't made any changes to your code. So Oxygen Box, that's my suspicion. But I see Awitters is responding to that as well, but that's my suspicion as to what's going on there. You're getting called out here, Sri. I just want to know if this is actually true or not. Are those echo frames on your face?
No, they're not. They're just standard glasses.
They're just normal glasses. They look just like mine, and these are echo frames.
Yeah, they look good on you.
Thank you. I'm not a glasses wearer. Like, I don't need glasses. I wish I did. But I have these are the tortoise ones. I don't know if you can see. They're like kind of brownish. They have like a tortoise finish on them. Yeah. But I also have the V1s. And the V1s look, honestly, you should get a pair of these because they look just like your glasses. I mean, those are so similar. But these are the original V1 echo frames. You can see they have really thick arms on them. They are super cool, and I'm actually taking the tortoise ones with me. I'm headed to Paris and London starting on Thursday. My flight to Paris is on Thursday, and I have a pair of the sunglasses versions. And those are my sunglasses when I'm headed over there, because it's so nice to be able to just talk to Alexa in the air without having to pull your phone out or look things up or whatever. And I've used it in Echo Buds as well as on the frames, especially when you're traveling through a lot of airports. You can say things like, what is my next gate? I talk to a skill called Trip It, but it lets me know what my next gate is, so I don't have to pull my phone out and look all that information up. It's really, really handy. But anyway, not echo frames. Good to know. Maybe we'll have to get you a pair.
Yep.
Okay. Witters, I think your answer is correct. And you're right. If you add the switch ignore hash to the deploy, then it'll force redeployment. I also just delete the GUID. Okay, Andy Muncie says, I created a skill, Alexa, where is my period? And now I'm working with a sanitary pad brand in India with Amazon ASIN listings, but I'd like this integration project to be a case study for Alexa shopping actions, as I'd like to sell more things like chocolate and yoga mats and hot water bottles. Sri, can you help me with this? I think the secret to this, Sri, really is just to go to the documentation for skill for shopping actions. When did shopping actions launch?
So shopping actions went GA last month.
Last month, okay. So this is relatively new. So,
correct.
Andy, let me know if you haven't been through the documentation or if you're struggling with that stuff. Let me know either in Slack or here in office hours, and maybe we can help you work through that. I don't want to put Sri on the hook to get people through specific stuff, but I would be more than happy to help you kind of navigate this stuff.
Yeah, and I think before last month, folks had to go through like the developer preview process, get in touch with our SAs,
right?
Solution architects. They do not have to right now. It's all
That's
self-service. So if you face any issues, as Jeff mentioned, you can reach out to him. And Jeff, if you need any support from my team, we'll be happy to sync up on it.
I appreciate it. Well, what I'm going to have to do is build a skill that uses it so that I have all of the deep knowledge and experience that you have. That'll be perfect. And my team behind the scenes just provided a link directly to the tech docs for Alexa shopping actions in the chat. So you can grab that there. Witters mentions that I need to pack my shorts. There's a heat wave in Europe right now. It's about 93 degrees Fahrenheit in London. I have news for you. That's what it's like here in Ohio every day in the summer. So it sounds perfectly comfortable. No, 93 still sounds miserable, but I'm ready for the heat wave. What I'm trying to figure out is how I can dress comfortably, shorts, t-shirt, maybe a polo, and not just absolutely scream, I'm an American. Like I want to blend in just a little bit, but I feel like shorts and a t-shirt are just screaming, that's an American. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm definitely looking forward to getting over there. France is hot. I think by the time we get to London, which is early next week, it's supposed to cool down a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty hot over there from what I understand. All right, we have about 14 minutes left, and I think I've gotten to the end of the questions so far. HeSpec Software recommends I just wear soccer jerseys. That will help me blend in. That's probably perfect. Okay, here we have a smart home question. EMR78 on Twitch says, with Alexa smart home skills, is it possible to change the Alexa response? For example, when I say, Alexa, turn on the air purifier, it responds okay. Can we change this response to say air purifier is on or something like that? I don't think so. One of the nice things about smart home skills, and we have a variety of other kind of pre-built models for specific things like video and music and flash briefings. There's a number of other interfaces. Those things are kind of pre-built and baked. And so it makes it very, very easy for you to build a smart home skill that can control the things that you want it to control with simple API calls. But the limitation to that is that you don't get a ton of control on what those utterances look like or what the responses are. It just says, okay, or sometimes it's just a ding or something like that. So no, I'm not aware of any way with a smart home skill. That being said, you have the ability to build a custom skill for your smart home device. It just requires a lot more work, but then you would have the ability to have any kind of interaction that you'd like. We offer the smart home model specifically because it makes it much, much easier to implement the smart home interface between a user and your device. But if you want to go the extra mile and provide customized responses and interactions, you can do that with a custom skill. You would just have to handle all of those individual model utterances, turn on, turn off, set the temperature to 82, whatever the things your device does. You would have to implement all of those things yourself. That's the only twist there. A. Witters says, I should wear a top hat and a waistcoat in London and I'll blend right in. So it's funny that you mentioned that. One of the things that I'm going to be doing while I'm in London is I'm going out to visit the folks at the Ascot racetrack. Last month was the Royal Ascot, which is the big pomp and circumstance Queen's race. It's a horse racing track, but it's the Queen's race last month. We're going to the one this month. So the races are on the 23rd. We'll be there the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, doing some interviews with some of the folks that work there. They have Alexa enabled all of the suites that are at this racetrack. And so we're going to talk with them about how that works, how they implemented it, all sorts of cool things. But I was informed only on Friday that I, in fact, will have to be in a suit while on site. That was news to me. And so as a result, I had to rush out and go buy a suit. So I have a tailor working on making some adjustments to a suit for me that I get to pick up on Thursday morning before I pack it in a suitcase and fly on Thursday night. So it'll be an interesting time. I'm not used to wearing suits for work. I dress like this, but it'll be fun. It'll be good. So Kunal also mentioned it's great to see me, Jeff, on the Alexa Live featured speaker list. Thank you. I had the good fortune of getting into the keynote, and I think I have some really exciting announcements to share with you regarding that keynote. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there, and I hope you really get a lot from what we have to share next Wednesday. What else can I talk about? I'm jazzed about shopping actions. I think I'm going to have to build that board game skill, because I think at a minimum it would be kind of cool to be able to filter things down. What's a good game for 6 people or 8 people, or something that's social, or something that uses a lot of dice, or like you could filter it down that way, and then I could recommend some games that way.
Yep. So generally in shopping actions, we do see that as you gamify the skills or your recommendations more, the more interactive it gets, and the more customers reap benefit out of it. And in general, right, like when we have or when we recommend, uh, what we recommend developers is that they do something that's very close to their skill. And in this case, you're developing a new skill which is for board games. So most of what you're recommending would be board games, for example, or
Yeah.
maybe dice or something like that. That's related to what you're doing. And also, typically, if they come in for a particular use case, like we do recommend you finish that. For example, if they're coming in for a workout, if they're coming in for any particular thing, just go ahead, finish that, and then suggest this. So it's not a very intrusive experience. So that way, customers have the best experience as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you don't want it to be a jarring experience. You're not here just to sell them things. They're here for a purpose, and we want to make sure that we fulfill the purpose first. And hey, by the way, we've got a cool yoga mat you might like, or whatever.
Yeah,
That makes sense. That's similar to the recommendations that we offer for in-skill purchasing, right? The idea that we want you to offer products when it makes sense. Don't turn your skill into something that's constantly trying to get people to buy things, where they'll just stop using it.
Yep.
A. Witter says he lives near Ascot, and then he said 16 miles away, and I'm uncomfortable with that. Having someone in the UK translate their distance to miles for me. I do appreciate it, but I can understand kilometers if you'd rather use that terminology. That's fine too. I am super pumped though. Like I'm going to Paris for a few days starting on Thursday. Get there Friday morning, and then I'm taking one of the high-speed trains up to London on Sunday night before I dive into a whole bunch of work on Monday. So should be a... Oh, I guess you do use miles in the UK, don't you? Really? I just assumed we were the only ones, but yeah, you guys use... I guess that makes sense. Okay, I've got a question from Brian Campbell here on LinkedIn. When a skill that I wrote is invoked by a user, the launch request in my Lambda is the first intercepted by a request interceptor that does some custom security stuff, basically getting a token for API access. The backend code that produces the token takes a while to start up on the very first time it is run, so the skill times out with the standard Alexa error message. Run it again and everything's fine because the token code is now up and running. Do you know of any way to extend this? Yeah, I've seen a number of ways that this is solved, but none of them are super lightweight. Basically, the service that you're calling is going to sleep and is sitting dormant, and it's not. I mean, it's like a Lambda function, right? It's not running until you ask it to. And so I see people do this with Lambda functions all the time, where they want a Lambda to more or less be hot rather than sitting cold, and so they have another service sitting behind the scenes that is pinging and hitting it on a somewhat frequent basis, every minute or so. That obviously increases the usage of that, which can potentially increase the cost. But I don't know that I have a better answer for you other than if you don't want this failure to happen, you can't have your service go to sleep. And so you may not even have control over the token agent that's providing that stuff. But if that's the case, then you've got to have a way to call that thing on a regular basis to keep it alive so that it's not timing out. But that's really the only recommendation that I have there. There isn't really a better way around that. If you have control over the service, you can play with the speed, you can play with the dormancy rates, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't have access to it, your only option really is to just try to keep it alive by pinging it every so often, which isn't a great answer, but that would be my recommendation, Brian. All right, we have 6 minutes left, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me that you guys use miles in the UK. I just assumed it was all metric. Whew. I'm running out of words. Madalena Popescu asks, if developing intelligent systems relating to speech technologies, it's crucial to work with high-quality data for the machine learning. How do you collect all of this data? Well, there's a couple of ways we go about this. The first is, we have army of scientists that are working on a lot of this stuff, and they have many different mechanisms through their research to collect a lot of the data that you're looking for. But if I'm being honest, one of the core sources we have for collecting machine learning data and utterances and information about how users speak and the words that they use is Alexa itself. We get millions of utterances a day that we can use to pattern match and build machine learning algorithms on top of, to understand how people are using things and how they're speaking and how they're trying to communicate. And I honestly feel like a lot of the machine learning stuff that we're doing today is only because of the utterances and the information that users use as they talk with their devices. One of the cool things that I've seen is that Alexa is quickly aware of new slang terms. As an example, I have two teenagers, and one of my teenagers, instead of using the word awesome or like that's cool or something like that, she says the word sleigh, not like like what Santa rides in, but like slay, like kill, like murder kind of thing, right? And so slay is like, oh, that's killer, that's awesome, that's neat. And so I don't know that Alexa actually recognizes that term, but as those things are used, as people respond to their devices using that kind of slang, it very quickly gets interpreted and understood to use those things. So Madeline, I hope that answers your question. But that's one of the many ways that we do that. Okay, so Dana Voice says, this Alexa shopping stuff reminds me of your Alexa gift shop. Is that dead? No, it's not dead. You guys may have noticed that, Andy Haldeman, Ryan Lowe don't join me here on the show anymore. They've moved on to new roles, new teams. In Ryan's case, he actually changed companies. So we're just a little understaffed right now to take on all the dreams and imagination that I have. And so those things are coming, but I just haven't had the bandwidth to be able to pull that off just yet. But I think that an Alexa skill would be a fantastic way to roll that out and introduce it to the world. Is by, hey, if you want to buy this cool Alexa swag, you have to buy it from this skill. I think that'd be pretty awesome. So we've just a couple of minutes left. I don't see that there's any other questions, but I do want to make sure that I pause for just a moment and thank Sri for being here. I really do appreciate you taking the time today to join us on this broadcast and answer folks' questions and kind of share the vision for what Alexa Shopping Actions is going to be. And I really look forward to the associates angle as well, because I think that's eventually an opportunity for developers to have another stream of revenue coming in from a skill that is already popular and has customers that want to buy things.
Yep. And yeah, I just wanted to add that we do have more features and functionalities coming ahead. So yeah, Alexa Live, watch out for it in Alexa Live.
Perfect. And for those of you, I don't think we had many this week, excuse me, that were questions that I wasn't able to answer or that I had to do some more research on, but that does happen from week to week. And so I just want to let you know that if we have questions that we've received that we were unable to answer, we're still working on them. Sometimes it takes time to identify the right product teams or to actually get the right answers. So I will continue to follow up on things as we get answers for them. But sometimes it takes longer than 1 week between these office hours episodes to let you all know exactly what has happened or what the answer is to that specific question. So we are working on this. We're building some mechanisms internally to try to make this even easier for us and all of our team to track down the right answers for you, because some of the questions you guys bring are amazing, but they're nuanced and intricate and really are kind of things that we really need to talk to the people that built those features to understand exactly how those things might work. Goodness, this cough just will not go away. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Sri, I want to thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to seeing all of you next week. I'll be doing this broadcast from London somewhere. If I can find my way out into the city, maybe I'll try to do it live in front of like Tower Bridge or Big Ben or something like that. But it might also just be in my hotel room. We'll have to see what we can pull off. But thank you guys all for tuning in. Don't miss Alexa Live next week. It's next Wednesday. Make sure you register alexa.design/live. And with that, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.